This is Wes Beech of the Plasmatics, and when I'm not out fighting the status quo, I'm listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Wes Beech of the Plasmatics.
Yeah, rhythm guitar player. Wes gives us the insights and stories of the Plasmatics and the past albums and tours that they were on. Good night.
Good night.
Wes, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I want to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Wes, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, it's so exciting. You know, we had Richie Stotts on about a month ago, and, you know, we're big Plasmatics fans, so this is kind of pinch ourselves moment again, having another member of the Plasmatics on the show. We're excited.
All right, cool.
Yeah, well, let's get right into it. So you joined the Plasmatics back in 1979. Can you give our listeners an insight into your journey inside the band?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I kind of came to the band in a very synchronistic type of way. I was in a band with some friends of mine from high school, probably back in about 77, and we went into Manhattan to audition for a singer, because we didn't have a singer at the time. So while we were waiting outside for our turn to go in and audition, I looked through the window and I saw this strikingly tall, blonde-haired guitar player. And it just... I pictured that in my mind. He was a tall guy, and as we were waiting to go in, the singer comes out, and as like so often happens in New York, he said, sorry, guys, my time's run out, and I'm out of money, so you're not going to be able to audition. So disappointed, we went back home, and another year passes by, and I had another band, and this band was called The Accidents. And we were rehearsing in Manhattan at a rehearsal space, and when we got done, a guy came out of a rehearsal room on the other side of the hallway, and I recognized him as a guy I went to high school with, and he says, hey, my aunt's boyfriend's band is playing a showcase at CBGB's. You want to go down there and check them out? So I said, sure, okay, I'll go down there and see what's going on. So we go down to CBGB's, and it's the Plasmatics on stage, and I think it's the first time they were playing. And I really didn't care for them, but I thought Wendy was absolutely riveting on stage. She had a one-piece leopard skin bodysuit on, and she really commanded the stage. And the bass player, a bald-headed Japanese guy, counted off every song in Japanese, and I thought he was the leader of the band. So fast forward about 6 months later, and my band broke up, and there was an ad in the Village Voice looking for the world's fastest rhythm guitar player. So I went down, auditioned at this rehearsal space in Lower Manhattan, and it was in the basement of this place on Thomas Street, Lower Manhattan, and it was real dark and dank, and the pipes low on the low ceiling were dripping water, and it was filled with people auditioning. So as I sat there waiting for my turn to audition, I was listening to what they were playing, and they were playing the same song over and over again. So I just figured out the song before I went in there, and then when it was my turn to audition and go in, they asked me if they wanted to show me a song to play, and I said, well, I was listening to it outside, so I know the song. So I played it with them, and at the time, Wendy wasn't there. It was just the band and manager Rod Swenson sitting in front of the band listening to everything. And I had also purchased their first 45, which was Butcher Baby and Corruption and Want You Baby, and I learned those songs before I went in, so I asked them if they wanted to hear me play those. They said sure, so I played those. And they seemed to like it, and they called me back for 2 more auditions, and asked me if I wanted to join the band. I said sure, and then they looked at me and they says, well, just one thing, you seem to have a little bit of a weight problem. Can you lose some weight? And I said, sure. And I went on a crash diet, lost about 20 pounds, and then I was in the band.
Oh, very cool.
Nice.
Well, the Plasmatics released New Hope for the Wretched back in 1980. It was the band's first full-length album released on Stiff Records. That album was rumored to be a difficult process due to the producer Jimmy Miller's heroin addiction. Can you talk a little bit more about the trials and tribulations of recording that album?
Oh, yeah. That was, we had been working on that material for quite a while, and then we got the author signed with Stiff Records, and they wanted Jimmy Miller to produce it, and we were all excited about that because he was producer for the Rolling Stones.
Right.
And previous to that, he had produced Motorhead records. So we listened to the Motorhead albums, and we really liked the way they sounded, and we're really excited about working with them. And when we got into the studio, things started to go pretty smooth, and then Jimmy says, well, I got to take a break. Will you guys wait here for a minute? And he disappeared for about an hour or two. We didn't know where he was, so we're looking all over the studio for him, couldn't find him, kept looking. More time went by. It's like, well, where did he go? And finally someone went into the ladies' room, and he was in there nodded out. So this was kind of a pattern that repeated itself until one day he just said, I'll be right back, and he left, and then we didn't see him for another couple weeks. So the sessions weren't too good, and in the end, the engineer, Trevor Halsey, essentially helped record it, and Rod Swenson and Dan Hartman came in to finish the production on the album, so Jimmy really wasn't much help at all. He did provide the cowbell part on Monkey Suit, and he said the last time he played cowbell was on the Rolling Stones' Honky Tonk Women, so this should be a big hit.
Very good. The cover of that album, it was a car crashing into the swimming pool. It was quite the imagery on that album. Can you talk a little bit more about having to do photo ops to get this thing all created to make this the album cover?
Oh yeah, that was really cool. That was, of course, Rod Swenson, who was a visual arts major at Yale University, and the Plasmatics were basically his concept and actually an art concept piece rather than the band, I think. And we decided to do that, and that was at the Sunshine Park nudist colony in New Jersey that let us use their swimming pool. So it's kind of funny. The night before, me and Richie and Stu went out to, and Jose went out, or John Beauvoir went out to this club in New Jersey, and I had a few too many Heinekens, and I was pretty hungover the next day, so it was a really hot, sunny day, and sitting out in the sun doing take after take of the photos. And if you look on the back cover, I got my feet in the swimming pool. I'd turn around and have to puke between takes. I was so hungover, I just couldn't wait to get finished with that. And then we shot a video of Monkey Suit with Wendy singing it in the pool, and it was great when Richie did his guitar solos. He'd dip his flying V in the pool, and that was really cool. But that was a long day and a very memorable experience.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, when we talked to Richie, and the Plasmatics are known for their stage antics and wild hair and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about your contributions to the live part of the Plasmatics?
Well, it started out, I was hired really just to bolster the sound because they were a three-piece band, and Richie would go off on these wildly guitar tangents, and the sound would kind of thin out, so they wanted to thicken up the sound, added me as a rhythm guitar player. So initially I just I just played the rhythm guitar, and I kind of stayed in the background. And as the band progressed more and more, I kind of came out a little bit more. When I started out, I took on Richie's persona before I joined the band, which was kind of a white butcher jacket, and I sprayed my hair silver. And then Richie, of course, had the mohawk, and he was into the nurses' outfits and tutus and way over-the-top dressing. And the band just kind of progressed from there.
The Plasmatics released Beyond the Valley of 1984 in 1981 and Coup d'etat in 1982. The band released 3 full-length albums in 3 years. Did you feel as though trying to write and record that much material in such a short amount of time, did it take away from the strength of the albums, or did you guys feel like each album was as strong as the next?
No, I think each album was as strong as the next, and what I kind of liked about the band was each album was a progression from the album before. So after New Hope for the Wretched, we kind of self-produced Beyond the Valley in 1984, and we were always writing songs. I mean, we were always rehearsing, we were always writing. I mean, our typical schedule was we would rehearse every other day from 6 to 10 at night at the rehearsal space downtown, and Rod Swenson actually built a little recording room and stage in the loft that he and Wendy lived in. Mm-hmm. And then we would rehearse all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and that was our work schedule. I mean, we were very well rehearsed, very well practiced, so we were always writing songs. Initially, I didn't contribute much. I brought the song Monkey Suit into the New Hope for the Wretched sessions. That was actually left over from my pre-Plasmatics band, The Accidents. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote the song Squirm for that album. And then as each album progressed, I wrote more songs. And, we'd present songs to Rod, and he'd listen to them, and then we'd rehearse them and work on them. And some we'd use, and some we didn't. But we were always writing, always rehearsing, so I think each album, well, like I said, was a progression from one to the next, and I don't think the material suffered from it. And if anything, we had more material than we needed. In fact, when we did the Coup d'etat album, I think we had something like 40 or 50 songs ready to go.
Oh, wow. As far as music that unreleased, I guess, tracks that the Plasmatics have or may not have, has everything been released from the Plasmatics catalog that you know of, or is there still some unreleased stuff that's waiting to be released sometime, somewhere down the line?
There's still some unreleased things, but whether they'll see the light of day or not, I don't know. I don't know the state of the tapes or what Rod Swenson would still have. I think most of the best material has already been released, although, like I said, there is a number of things that were recorded that were never released. We did a German-language version of Butcher Baby with Neil Smith around the time of the Beyond the Valley album that I know was never released.
Oh, very cool.
During the Coup d'etat tour, I think it was 1983, you guys opened for Kiss, Creatures in the Night tour, and Gene Simmons was pretty impressed, and that ended up leading up to the Wendy's first solo album, the Wow album. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we did about 32 dates on the Creatures of the Night tour, which was really cool. And in my mind, that was the best version of Kiss, and that was a lot of fun to do. And at the time, Kiss was kind of on the downside. They had just come off the recording of The Elder, which was an abysmal failure. Mm-hmm. And the crowds weren't really there. It was supposedly a 100-date concert tour, and dates were being canceled left and right. And Kiss actually hired us to open for them to help sell some tickets and help put some bodies in the seats. Mm. But I know a lot of dates we did, we'd be playing these 8,000 and 10,000 seat arenas. There'd be 2,000 people there, and it would look like a high school dance. It was really kind of sad. But, of course, we gave it our all. Kiss gave it their all. And we got a lot of better reviews than Kiss in a lot of towns. And I think there was a little bit of resentment and jealousy on their part. And I think that was part of the reason Gene wanted to work with Wendy, was to kind of, show that he could produce her and
absolutely
maybe take some of the attention off of us and put it back on him and them.
As far as Wendy's solo work goes, you were involved with the first Wendy O. Willams album, the Wow album, and the Maggots the Record album. Can you talk a little bit more about the creative process of those two albums?
Sure. Well, the Wow album, we were actually working on the next Plasmatics album, and we did about 3 weeks opening for Kiss, and we went back to New York to ostensibly work on that record. And we were rehearsing for about 3 days when Kiss called us back and begged us to come back and tour some more with them. So we went back and played in the Midwest. And then when we were finished with that, we reconvened. We're working on the record when we got the call from Gene saying that he wanted to produce Wendy. And due to contractual reasons, he didn't want to do it as a Plasmatics album. He wanted to just do a Wendy O. Williams solo album. So we had all these songs in the can, and we brought down our best songs and played them for Gene, and he picked which ones he liked the best, and then he brought some songs in for us to play. And we spent about 2 weeks in pre-production working on the songs. And Gene actually wanted to use his own musicians and bring in his own players for that and make it, a complete just Wendy solo. But Wendy fought to have her band play with her. So it ended up being me on guitar, T.C. Tolliver on drums. Chris Romanelli was going to be the bass player on it, but he had a falling out with Rod Swenson right before the recording and kind of quit the band. Mm-hmm. And we kind of looked at each other like, oh, what are we going to do now? And Gene Simmons just looked up and said, oh, that's okay. We weren't going to use him anyway, which I thought was kind of cold. And then Richie was going to play some leads on the record, and I was going to play the rhythm guitar parts. So we got down to Right Track Studios in Manhattan. We were going to do the basic tracks there, and as we did that, it was me and TC playing. Gene Simmons played bass on the record under the pseudonym Reginald Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we were recording, Gene would come in every day and say, I've got some special guests going to come in and play lead guitar. And then he starts dropping the names like Eddie Van Halen and Jeff Beck. And, he says, oh, Eddie owes me some favors. And so every day we were eagerly awaiting to see who was going to come in and be a guest soloist on the album. So this went on for about a week or so. And finally, one day after rehearsal, Gene comes in and he goes, gentlemen, we're going to have an honest-to-God rock star come in and play lead guitar tomorrow. And we're all sitting there waiting, eagerly, like, okay, who's it going to be? It's going to be Eddie, Jeff Beck, who's it going to be? And he goes, Paul Stanley's coming in to play lead guitar. And you could feel the air go out of the room, like, Paul Stanley, this is the special soloist. So Paul came in the next day, and I went with him over every track to see what he wanted to play, and they had just come off their tour of Brazil, so they didn't have any of their instruments there. So Paul went next door to Manny's Music, got a guitar, came back, was listening to the tracks. He was sitting there. It was early in the morning, so he was eating like this grilled egg sandwich, and the grease from the sandwich is dripping down his arms. And he's sitting there listening to the tracks, and I'm telling him the chord changes. He goes through the first song and goes, I'm not feeling that. So, okay. So we go to the next song, plays through it, tell him the changes. He said, I don't feel that. We went through the whole album like that. He didn't feel anything. He ended up just making motorcycle noises on the intro to Ready to Rock. So that was his contribution that took all day to do.
And that's that.
And then he had, that was it. That was our honest-to-God rock star soloist. And then we had Ace Frehley came in, and he did the solo to Bump and Grind, which was really great. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the studio the day he came in, but from what I understand, he did a number of takes, but they used the first take because that was the best one.
Very good.
Over the years, did you amass a guitar collection, or do or for you, do you keep it small? How's it work?
Oh no, I amassed a large collection and to this day, I still have a bit of a guitar aficionado. In fact, I just got a Dave Mustaine Flying V and Alien Green. That's really cool.
Very cool. Well, bringing this back to the Plasmatics again, the Coup d'etat album, the band employed Dieter Dierks to produce that album. The band had a metal direction sonically for that album. If I remember right, we interviewed John Beauvoir years ago, and I think, if memory served me right, is that when he decided to leave the band before the recording of that album?
Yes, he left. He left before that. Yep. In fact, he left right after the Beyond the Valley in 1984 album. He I guess was talking to little Steven Van Zandt, and little Steven kind of convinced him that the Plasmatics weren't going anywhere and he should do something different, and asked him to join his band. So Jean left, and we got Chris Romanelli in to play bass. And the funny thing is, Chris actually auditioned for the bass spot when Jean did, and we liked Chris better. But at the time, he was a bit younger, so we didn't take him. And we took Jean, but we kept his number because we really liked the way he played. So when John left the band, Chris, of course, was our first choice, and called him up, and he eagerly came into the band, and he was a great addition. So when we were going to do the Coup d'etat album, we signed with Capitol Records, and Dieter Dierks was their pick for producer. Well, we had actually recorded the whole album with the Metal Priestess producer, Dan Hartman, and we did that whole album and at Electric Ladyland Studios in Manhattan with a different bass player and drummer. We took it to Capitol Records, and they says, "Well, that's a good demo, but we want a better producer and a better sound." So actually, from Metal Priestess we were kind of moving into that more metal direction, and with Coup d'etat, that was our real heavy metal album, and Dieter Dierks helped bring it out. And with him, it was really like going to recording school. He came in for pre-production for 2 weeks, and we would rehearse every day for 10 hours a day with 2 20-minute breaks, and it was really intense. He had us practice to a click track. It was played through the PA system. It was so loud at the end of the day, all I hear was this click going through my head until the next day. But it was really like going to recording school. It was such a great experience. I learned so much from him, and use a lot of his recording techniques to this day.
And help me out. So was it always the band's desire to evolve from a punk-oriented band into a metal band, or was it just, did the evolution of the band happen organically, I guess sonically?
It happened organically. It was a natural progression, and we started, and like I like to say, is like, we started off as a 3-chord band, and then we learned that 4th chord, and that just opened up the whole world to us. But, we took the punk thing as far as we could, and we never considered ourselves a punk band. We always considered ourselves a rock band. The punk tag was something that the journalists put on us. And we were kind of outside the whole New York scene. We were just doing our own thing. And it was a natural progression. We listened to a lot of the metal-type bands, and we would listen to AC/DC, and we'd listen to bands like ZZ Top or Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and would study them and, kind of break down their songs and how they recorded them and the sounds they got, and that was kind of the direction we wanted to go in. We would get a little more complex song structures and writing, so it was a very natural, organic thing.
Yeah, very good.
Well, can you talk a little bit more about that early New York scene? The bands coming up around that time, 79 to 80, in the early 80s. Was there camaraderie? Did you guys work together, or to kind of promote the scene, or was it kind of all one band, all for one?
It was pretty much an isolated one band for each at the time. I mean, we weren't really fraternized with a lot of other bands, although we were good friends with the Ramones and also the Dead Boys. And the Ramones were big fans of ours, and we knew some of the other bands around there, and I knew a lot of the local musicians from my previous band. But it was kind of an isolated thing. We kind of kept to ourselves. We didn't really go out a lot once we were in the band. There was kind of a mystique around the band. In fact, a lot of people thought we were from England, even in New York, because we didn't go out a lot and kind of kept to ourselves. And that was just the way of the band.
Well, it's no secret that the Plasmatics took theatrics to a whole nother level. Yeah. And, with that being said, do you ever feel as though, as you look back on the body of work of the Plasmatics, do you ever feel as though that the theatrics overshadowed the musicianship? Or do you feel as though, because I feel like a lot of people know the Plasmatics, but they really don't, they never heard the Plasmatics. Yeah. Am I making sense?
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a valid statement. But to us, the music always came first, and then the theatrics were just kind of the icing on the cake. Well, like I said, it was a Rod Swenson's concept, so he had this vision of what he wanted to see, and and Wendy also helped fuel the fire. She had ideas she wanted to do, and she just wanted to do more and more outrageous stunts every time we went out. I mean, we used to do absolutely insane things, and there was no other bands that would do it. We used to put big bags of white flour up in the rafters of CBGB's, and then when Wendy would come out at part of the show, and she'd aim the shotgun at these boxes, and then they'd open up and empty the flour over the ringsiders, so you could see who was in the front row at a Plasmatics concert, because they'd always be covered in flour. And she'd take flower pots and break them on stage and rub the dirt on herself and throw it into the crowd. And it was a spectacle. And then we had, at one point, we used to call it the chicken gag, where we'd rent these chickens for the weekend and put them in boxes on the ceiling of CBGB's, and then again she'd shotgun at the boxes, and they'd release these chickens, and these chickens would be running around the stage, and the roadies would be chasing the chickens, and it was quite the spectacle.
Oh, very cool.
Well, when the Plasmatics kind of came to an end, what did you do next? I know on iTunes I found a band called Shock Therapy. There was an album, Heaven and Earth.
Well, what I did was I had actually left the band for a brief period after Wendy's, right before she did the Commander of Chaos album. I had worked on that, and then I was going through some personal things, and I left the band for about 6 months, and I moved to Detroit, and I still went back to New York, and I helped Rod, worked as associate producer on Commander of Chaos, did some of the backing vocals on that, but I didn't play with the band, and they went on tour for about 6 months, and then they came back to do the Maggots album, and Rod asked me if I wanted to work on that, and I said sure. So I went back to New York as they were recording that album, and then Rod asked me, he said, "Hey, you want to play some guitar on the record?" And I said sure, I'd be glad to. And I ended up writing the song Propagators for that album. They said they needed another song, so I wrote that for it, and one thing led to another, and I rejoined the band. And then after that, we did the Deafest and Baddest album, which was like a solo album for Wendy, because she had heard Blondie do Rapture and rap on that, and she thought she could do a better job of rapping, so we did that. Mm-hmm. That was kind of like a heavy metal rap album, and I think the first venture into that for metal and rap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then after that, we did a tour, and then we said we were going to work on another record. Rod got involved in some other things, and that never happened. So I was working in a music store in Detroit, and I met a guy who actually came to see us on the WOW tour in Detroit, and he asked me if I was interested in playing with the band. I said, okay, and that was a band, Shock Therapy, which had a couple albums out, and they were kind of like a gothic, industrial, electronic band, and I brought more of an edge to it with my guitar playing, and I played on a few albums and did some tours in Germany with them. And in fact, they just released a video that we had done for a song called No Fear of Death. It was supposed to be released as a single, so we did an animated video for that, and at the time it was like state-of-the-art animation at one of the best animation houses in Germany. And when we finished it, it was really cool, and they gave the bill to the record company, and the record company balked at it, and they wouldn't pay the bill, so it was never released. Like I said, it just came out recently.
Oh, wow.
Which is unfortunate, because it was a cool song. And the band was really, really big in Germany, but we could never get any traction over in the States. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know this is maybe a difficult question for you to answer, but as you look at the body of work of the Plasmatics, and I guess maybe including Wendy stuff too, do you have a favorite album from the discography of the band and then into Wendy stuff? And then on the flip side of it, do you have an album that you wish you could have a redo on?
Well, my favorite album, of course, would probably be Coup d'etat, because on that album I played about 95% of the guitars on it. I did all the rhythm guitars, and then that was kind of my first foray into lead guitar playing, so that has to be my favorite album.
Mm.
And as far as redos, I would probably say the Metal Priestess album, because I just didn't really care for the guitar sound that Dan Hartman got on there. He was never really comfortable recording loud guitars. So I think that could have sounded a lot better. In fact, I think the recordings of the Doom Song and Black Leather Monster that we did for Second City TV and Solid Gold, respectively, sounded better than what was on the record. So that's the one I would most like to redo.
Very good.
The state of the current music industry isn't all that.
It's not that great.
Are there any bands that you listen to now that you just kind of catch your eye?
I listen to a lot of bands. I like some of the modern stuff, like Butcher Babies. I like, because they were, formed in kind of a tribute to Wendy, but they play some real good music. And In This Moment, I like, and I like a lot of the pop stuff that's out there. I like Olivia Rodrigo. I think she's really good. There's another girl called Haley Winters I really like. She's got some really good songs. More of a, kind of a poppier vein, but I like her.
Have you checked out Twin Temple yet?
No.
They are a satanic doo-wop band. You got to check them out. It's fantastic. It's called Twin Temple. I'll send you the link to
Twin
them.
Temple?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. And the band Heat I really like. Some of these Swedish metal bands kind of play in the classic vein. I like some of them.
Yeah, very good.
And then I went, I still like to go out and see bands. I saw Extreme. I thought they were really great. They really totally blew me away.
Oh, very good.
Very good.
We got one last question for you, and we'll leave you alone for the night. Sound good?
Yeah, okay, sure.
All right. Ask this question to all of our guests. The mystery of rock and roll. With the dawning of the internet and social media, there's no more Kiss or Led Zeppelin or the Plasmatics anymore. Everybody knows everything about all bands and all musicians now. Well, I shouldn't say everything, but it's close. For you, the artist and the fan, where's your preference? Do you miss that mystique and mystery of rock and roll that you were a part of? Or do you like this new age of accessibility? Because, hey, if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you tonight.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm up with the accessibility of everything. That's really exposed me to a lot of things. I've been active on Twitter for the last couple of years. I met a lot of people there. I've done some podcasts from that, and like talking to you guys, and I like the fact that you're exposed to so much new music. I mean, I've discovered so many bands and interacted with so many people that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I have to definitely go down with the accessibility.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off that you would like to discuss?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. I just want to say that, like I said, I'm active on Twitter. I'm at Beech Wesley, if anybody wants to contact me. I also help administer the Plasmatics website, plasmatics.com. And if anybody wants to order anything, I'd be more than happy to autograph it. Just leave something in the comments.
All right. Very good. Well, this is how things are going to work out. We're about 2 weeks behind on our episodes, but when yours is ready to go, Jeff, the editing wizard over here, will get it all cleaned up for you, and then we'll send the link to you. And if you could just share it wherever you possibly can, that would be fantastic.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's great talking to you guys, and I appreciate you reaching out.
Wes, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
It was a true honor.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I really like talking to you guys.
All right. Hey, I'll send you that link to Twin Temple, and then I'll be in touch within 2 weeks. Sound good?
All right. Great, man. Thanks again.
Be well. Take care.
You too. Yeah, bye.
says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The Sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.